Alright folks, welcome back everyone. It is Monday, reset day again, local time. Time for our 8th week. Let's get right into it. And maybe some commentary at the end. These are relatively, we're in the latent stage of the campaign, like the current module 32. Not the most exciting, obviously. The 12:50 on the clock. How long these things are. Oops. I enjoy doing the changing room and a dream realm thing, so just gonna keep doing that. Right, off we go. Start with the fire. Such an interesting contrast between this and like the development cycle of Phantom X. Like I'm already preparing for the next thing in Phantom X. It's constantly rolling. This one after like the next 2 weeks ish. I guess we're thinking about another 3-ish months of downtime, right? Actually, there's 2 months left in the battle pass. A little over 2 months. 65 days. Yeah, a little over 2 months. So probably we'll hear something in that time about their 32.5. The last time they set a precedence for being experimental, like the half modules are experimental. They were truly experimental, I think. It's great to see if they continue that trend. I'm personally biased towards experimental things. More on that in a bit. I think that's my major commentary for today. There wasn't too much activity for the like feedback portion. You know, to get rid of the guy with the eyeball first. Quite annoying. Okay. Here we go. Here, changing room first. Right. Touch the door. Boop. Go back. Start with Succubus. No attack this time. And go to the room with spirits. And let's start this way. Right. Which is at the other end. That'll take us to these guys. Which may not be saving these guys for last. Seem okay. Didn't go this way. Yeah. We're grabbing these guys here. Okay. And we'll double back. So this leads up to, right. Okie dokie. Just double checking there's other pathings, but okay. And we double back. Them back. Go, go, go. That brings us back to like the succubus room, right? That's through our middle. This doesn't seem too bad going this way. Alright, so we checked that out on the second half of the thing. And we can go and enter this side. The blood temple. Oh, and this. Okay. Okay, holding your shield doesn't help. Nope. Oh, the wall has stuff. All right. Can we jump down? This would be where the blood temple is. On the hallway. Or temple blood. Okay. And the beholders are right next door. All right. Now we go this way. It should take us back upstairs, right next to the, or one room over maybe. Nope, I'm about to sneeze. Right next door. Got these off. Interact. Off we go. Oops, wrong direction. Take care of business. Okay, that's just the one. Great. All right. Into the room. Let him have his moment. Pretty good transformation. And it took him longer to mutate than to get bopped. No hard feelings. It should take us back in the front door. And we can head on to the Dream Vault. Oops. Heck. Wait. Alright. Alright. This happens. Patching. And then if there was a patching change, then there would be a hang up every once in a while. You just sit here and wait until it stops hanging up. Anytime now. Okay. So we're kind of... I wasn't keeping track of time. I guess we're getting close to... 10 minutes, maybe? Okay. Can I grapple from that height? No. Oh, wait. Trying to figure out... What? You can't grab onto... Oh, wait, you can. Oh, wait. I think this is... Oh, yeah, that is so much faster. Oh, no, wait. You can't. That sucks. I was really hoping you can from here. Nope. Oh, wait. Hold up. I was thinking maybe you can go to the backside of that. Wait. Let's see. Like, can you go to the backside of this? Nope. Darn. Oh, I did something. Oh, that's interesting. Anyways. That's a bit of exploring time. The heck, dude? I don't want to go all the way around. Nope. All right, this part kind of just blows. And so I have to do this route. Oh, actually, huh. It's not that bad. I just kind of looking for another way. Can you please? Oh. Left side. Hang you. A little too soon. Oh, I got no ups. That is so annoying. It's fine. No trigger. No trigger here. Can I please interact with this when the game decides to load, please? Thank you. Apparently there's a new lockbox coming. That's interesting. I didn't even open this one's lockbox. Not this time. Not this time. Okay. All right. This should bring us to the front of the instance. Okay. Then we grab Valora's if this doesn't trigger the activities thing. I think it did. Yes. So we can just turn in the weeklies and that's it. Oh no, wait. The weeklies are it's still not complete? Man, you don't get anything from 85%, really? Alright. I guess we're doing same deal. Not too bad. We're at 20 minutes ish with in addition with the shenanigans. Oh, we can hijack this, I think. Wait. Is someone actually here? Oh, someone is here. Nice. Thanks, dude. Okay. That's one. It's probably the same guy. Wait, I have both of them? Oh. Okay. I had the reinforced sword as well. Alright. Basically, we just hit one of these, hide in this corner. Can you guys, all right. I was trying to grab them together. Oh, someone executed them at different times. So now it's just annoying. Don't do it. Here, back to the wards. No paywall for grinding AD. Someone had to pay for it. They didn't get it for free and then put it on AH. I don't know what they're talking about. Pretty pathetic. They are holding 2 of the best combat enchantments. Something. Let's go to the gamer room. Okay. Good talk. All right, go back. Behind a paywall. Interesting. That's what that message was. Disturbance. We have to do this again, so let's do the ward. Let's just do both of them, and we only have to turn in one of them. They all respond again. So. Can I interact with these guys without... Oh, just kidding. Okay. All right. Quickly go to the game. Go to the disturbance. I guess we'll have one queued up for next time. bunch of people arguing about value, and what costs money and what doesn't cost things. Pretty normal stuff. Let's start with unique and fun ways to unlock stuff instead of 300 mind-numbing trial runs on repeat. Oh, that's my main gripe. All in, kill them all. Yes, the grind is just lazy developing, but that is easy to implement. Hot takes. Okay. Oh, and then we'll have the extra weekly turn in next week. I don't have to do repeatables. Oh, I guess we can sit here while they chat amongst themselves. So here we are, right? We're at 80. You get this one-time thing. Hooray! A box of Astro Diamonds. Amazing. Okay. Alright. So this is where I would have something prepared. Not much in the way of talking topics today. We can take a look at the Discord. I took that to look at a little bit at the Discord. So right now, the current feedback, we have two different narratives that occurs quite often at the moment. And I guess I could provide some commentary before we head off for the day. Right, these are relatively short. This is what I guess in a way this is a way to demonstrate what the live service component is like. So that's largely the campaigning stuff. Outside of that, campaigning is not in during this time of the day, which is my evening days when I want to relax and do quote-unquote some grinding, right? And the current constant discussion about the majority feedback, right, on Red Harvest 2 revolves around the question, what constitutes as quote-unquote acceptable grinding? And the discussion is more about the length. However, the old guard, individual old guards or people who like that stuff, they rely on this retort, this rhetoric that happens a lot of times, and that's the idea that it's an MMO, so you grind for reward. That's an MMO. You know, the whole idea of constantly saying, and it's still pretty ridiculous in my opinion a little bit, that this term MMO as opposed to a traditional MMORPG of this nature, the idea is it's a hand wavy way of diminishing people's feedback. So it's kind of a back and forth. Oftentimes someone would suggest a feedback, and if that feedback goes against some sort of very long standing stereotype or tradition, the other person would come to trivialize that feedback despite it being a feedback forum, you know, so everyone contributes feedback. And there's often this air of arrogance and a little bit of snobbery when like, oh, well, if you don't want to play any group content, then go play a single player RPG. Not in MMO, as opposed to an MMORPG stylized in trying to maintain the old order, right? While not acknowledging the obvious, there's also obvious counter arguments. It's also a live service game, right? So much like if one were to take the same attitude as that person who would sit there and say, well, if you don't like the group content, right, the group content, which is the dungeons and trials, because the major core of most of the feedback is how long is enough, how much grinding time is it? Is it worthy of something? So measuring the values, I'm not gonna weigh in on that. That's whatever anyone sells. My value system doesn't even revolve around the group content, right? So the reality here is that there's one group that do not value the group content. So like selective people who do not large enough of a group significantly to not value the group content, like the trials, dungeons, the stuff that requires group. And then there's another gang, which I feel is the country club gang, because they are a group. So the click group and those individuals value the group content, and they try to trivialize the single player content, right? Instead of, in my opinion, looking to elevate both the single player content and the group content, and also mutually acknowledging that this game has both a single player component and a multiplayer component. That to me is what makes the argument dissatisfying for both sides. In both cases, the ones that value the group content will consistently bicker and comparison and contrast to what is sufficient. So like, what is a long time? Is it the 300 to 600 runs of Shackle of Divinity, or is it the 140 same run of Soul Harvest? That's the individuals who are into the group content, and that's fair enough. Like, they get their feedback and group content. But what the interaction happens a lot of times is there are fewer, but also newisher people, I suppose, who like the live service model, in which they like doing things with the option of group content. And that is where the most recent type of commentary or responses. It's interesting because people are trying to provide feedback, and that feedback is supposed to be directed towards the community manager and the people, but there is still interactions across from each other between the two groups. And it's more like, oh, I care about this and I want to talk about this, and then another person says, well, I don't care about your issues, the real issue is the one that I care about. And then they do these like back and forth platitudes or demeaning condescension, like, well, if you don't like playing the group content, then go play a single player RPG, right? Or a not MMO. And then, well, if you're complaining about the single player content, then go play a group game. And my only commentary when I'm looking at these things is the reason why both of them exist. Like, there are two groups, one talking about how weak the single player component is, and one group talking about how non-negotiable and lackluster the group content is. They both exist. So like, trying to think it doesn't exist by deferring it to something else is the opposite of feedback. It's not feedback. That's called deflection. You're deflecting the problem or deflecting other people's opinions, right? So that's kind of where most of the recent commentary was. Someone suggested, oh, can we do this or do this? And I kind of like, so it was very group oriented. It was very individualized oriented and also individualized interaction oriented. And then someone would come in and be in the group side of things and say, well, this is a group game. It's a MMORPG, or MMO is what they keep abbreviating as. For the record, there are a lot of MMOs that are single player focused. It is through the interaction and indirect comparison between players that create the group space, actually the community space. This game, it's trying to straddle between literally trying to create the game space, but because of its straddling, the community space is openly condescending to each other. Like, it's very uncharacteristically antagonistic towards each other. Like in sitting here, you might be thinking, oh, you know what? Why don't we just be greedy and say, can we have A and B? Like, hey, can we, like, all right, here's the feedback for single player. If y'all, y'all like developers have time to make the single player better, that's great. And then if you have the time to make the group content greater, that's great. It's like, hey, we're going to be greedy. Let's work together to bring up both those components. But no, it's usually the argument deals with like the whole, they are limited resources. They're not that brilliant of a developer. They're greedy publishers. So basically we have all these limited resources. So it's a competition for which thing is more important. The single player content, which there is, by the way, in Neverwinter, for those who keep condescending other people for saying it's an MMO, so MMOs don't have single player content. In fact, it's rarely, even in the beginning stages of World of Warcraft and RuneScape and stuff, the solo playing content portion is actually often substantially bigger. Like on the developer side, like what the developer has to do and the publisher has to do, it is far more resource heavy and also dedicated to the solo playing side of things. I hear this oftentimes when they think about the nostalgia of World of Warcraft and the nostalgia of RuneScape, and my first thought is, yeah, those moments are great because they are also rarer moments. Like what I mean is, time warps differently with people's memories and nostalgia. Nostalgia focuses on all the pivotal moments in people's lives. What is the highlight? That takedown of a really hard boss. And then a sort of general appreciation for all the time invested in that boss. But really the moment that's highlighted is the moment you took down the boss where the group came together. However, when you think about the literal amount of time, which is value to me personally, not like virtual goods or whatever virtual currency you have, the time, when you reflect on it, the vast majority of time is actually during the solo playing content. The training, the leveling, the reorganizing your gear, the collecting, it rarely has changed from that. One of the biggest valuations of online content and video games in general is the player themselves. That's and that doesn't change culturally either. Like where, oh, you could make an argument, oh yeah, this culture is very collectively communal, so therefore they wouldn't have star players and people who want to be in the limelight. That's not true. In fact, one of the biggest ones was Korea, Japan, and China when it comes to competitive practices and play and whatnot. And group play is often left, quote unquote, a professional obligation. So when you enter a professional organization, you finally get group play, right? So even in the casual sense, it's still the solo component. If you want to make a strong argument like in MMORPG, the focal point and the vast majority of time is spent thinking in a group-oriented way. I still don't actually think it was true back in World of Warcraft days or RuneScape. You are still thinking at the individual level to forward your own progress with the option of reaching milestones in the group content. Like, there's a reason why the group content, in my opinion, in RPGs, action RPGs, and now MMORPGs, etc., that the end game is that spurious, inconsistent, on occasion milestones you reach in group content. Now, if we want to be realistic with each other, the vast majority of the time you're interacting is not in group content. It's in single player content where you accrue, you amass materials and grind for stuff. It's crazy now a little bit, in my opinion, where grinding for things is somehow now synonymous in at least in the people who are vocal, it's somehow synonymous with interacting and grouping with other people, when ultimately, like, and then they keep thinking like, oh, it's an MMORPG. It's like, people grind for things usually not as groups now, even more so than it did before. But before, it was kind of almost arguably longer than it is now. So whenever I think about grinding and stuff, I'm kind of curious why it's like specifically for this. Maybe it's because I don't play any other live service games that are constituted as MMORPGs, but generally speaking, I want to be very respectful, as respectful as I can. The answer is both. If there is resources, you can constantly make the argument, oh, it's best to focus on more important things, right? More important things, like this group wants this, believes they are more important, and then this group wants this, they believe their opinion is more important. And my first thought is, I sit here and I'm thinking all your points are important. It would be nice if there was less time spent trying to counter argue each other as though it's a competition, because somehow you think that a game with such a limited community left managing things could use more strife and more convoluted conflicts of interest in order to perpetuate a brighter future for the game. Like, my thought is, oh, that's a pretty decent idea. I wonder how they're going to implement it. Do you have any ideas? And then someone else is like, no, that idea is garbage. It's not even important, because they're not important. What I'm going to say is more important. That's kind of the attitude that happens, in my opinion, most of the time. And this, to me, is like, hey guys, I care about group content and I'm a good leader and I organize things, and then I go to these forums and attack everyone else who's not part of my group. And what I mean by that is mental space. Like, oh, if you don't think like me, so you're not part of my group, so let's go to the forums and diminish your perspective because you don't share the same perspective. That's kind of what the Discord is. Usually. Oh, there, Ripper. All right, so not much to talk about other than that. Right now, right, it centers around the answer that they're going to have to, Cryptic has to, in the next module, like 33, and not the half module. Half module is set for precedence to be experimental, so I hope they keep it experimental. Maybe a solo dungeon would be an experimental concept. And then whatever they're moving on from this. So like this theme thing. I would love to see like a green, blue, sky oriented thing. That would be kind of nice. Swap up instead of underground and the ground level things. Maybe like a skybox or something. Floating things. That would be kind of neat. Brighter, greener pastures. Water. Something with water. Bright water. And whatnot. So module 33, we're getting close to ending. Like, there are only 2 more weeks, right? Module 33, I hope 32.5 is experimental and continue to be experimental. And then module 33 would answer most of these questions. The core question is, are they going to dial back? It's pretty unanimous that the center point is how even though this module tried to tackle every existing mechanic and every existing like interaction point of their design all slammed into the same thing, the distribution of the currency has nearly been disagreeable. This even among individuals who do grind for these things and whatnot. So curious how they're gonna scale it back and address that despite having quote unquote limited resources and developer time or deadline to create the content, right? The solo content. The group content is recyclable in a way that is kind of irrelevant to me right now, so probably want to go and talk, like, voice your opinions if you're engaging in the dungeons and the trials or the back-to-back trials. For myself, what I cover is what's important to me. So much like that guy that comes in and just says, oh, it's an MMORPG, so, or an MMO, you should expect group content. If you don't like the group content or don't participate in it, then go play a single player RPG. And I'm like, yeah, you can do both. Despite being ignorant of knowing that the large majority of the time is still probably doing solo content things. And also despite the reality that Neverwinter Online is also a live service game. A live service game is predicated on balancing both of them. In fact, nowadays, if this person was a little bit more in touch, or various people are a little bit more in touch with other live service games to set a precedence, I'm not saying Neverwinter needs to be like these, but the vast majority of people, positive feedback and community for building deals with enhancing the single player experience and allowing the group experience to come together on its own. So like the idea is incentivizing and wanting people to be in the game in order for the game, the presence of those players, to contribute to development of a community. Now that has been more of the popular way of going about it. That doesn't mean it's the only way this could succeed. Yeah, you can, like, it will be interesting in module 33 if they decide to enforce it, even if they double down, where like, okay, now group content is absolutely mandatory. Not only are your quests dependent on other groups, we want it all the time, because that's kind of where they're pushing the limits here. Nearly all the quote-unquote farming related things are either a world instance thing where collectively, even among the solo campaigning zones and all that stuff, like the campaigning zones, it requires that a group exists. And then the trials and dungeons maybe will continue to do just that. My interesting experiment proposal, as I have said in the last two modules, is to flip the script. This is an experimentation of how far you can push the campaign zone being completely dependent on having more group people in order to like increase playtime and contribute to the whole MMO feel, right? Like the old guard keeps hand waving around, and then spin it on its head. Make the dungeons a solo thing. Like at this point, change is interesting. At least I'm biased towards change. However, I feel many are actually even interested in change, despite they are stuck in their own ways and are very happy and comfortable with that. For myself, it would be interesting to see how well solo dungeons are received, right? Because if there's anything that's worth feedback, is trying to test something to see if it works. Instead of sitting here saying he said, she said, hearsay, they say, my point is more important than their point is more important. I think it's almost like night and day when it comes to playing. I do play Persona 5X, right? Persona 5X or Phantom X, P5X, and man, each additional feature feels like you're kind of wanting to interact with other people because you want to know how they did their thing. So it really plays into communal things, like the new addition of the Astrolabe or the Astrolab mode, it makes it so that every person's run is likely going to vary. And because of that, even though despite not interacting directly with another player or working together, augmented reality, social media and stuff makes it so that it is a communal thing to do. Like, oh, hey, how did you run through your 13 battles across 20 characters or so, and how you organize your run? And then that immediately creates a community. Here, it's more like, oh, my group did this, but we're not going to share anything because we've already got our business done. If you don't have a group, go get into a group. So the idea is like, it's having the opposite effect. It's like our clique versus your clique. So, and it's still very frequent despite how much smaller the group is, like the community, the group, the pool of players. And some part of me would say design language, developer and publisher like intent and how they design their content could pave the way for more of a encouraging that behavior, like a collective behavior that actually makes it feel like an MMO. Right now it's more like people who use MMO as a soft argument that it's group content, but they act like it's not group content. Like their behavior makes it so that it's more like gatekeeping. The comments that are flowing in feedback forums and stuff is constantly gatekeeping. Like, hey, oh, if you don't like this, then go play a game that you actually like. Like, if you don't like this stuff, well, this game's about this, so go and play something else that isn't the thing you don't like. That's gatekeeping, right? And does Neverwinter need more gatekeeping? I don't know, but this stuff hasn't changed in a long while, and it will be very interesting to see. This new community manager seems to like to be involved in things. I don't know how much sway it has on developer priorities, but it does get me a little bit excited to see how the developer is going to respond to a lot more vocal this time around. A lot more vocal. They've definitely pushed a lot more buttons than before. I don't cover any of those things. Maybe I will in the future, but to be respectful to that person who says, oh yeah, if you don't like the group content, go and play a single player RPG. It's like, yeah, I will. That's why I'm gonna go play Persona and record more Persona stuff. However, unlike what that person's ignorance would suggest, I also cover the solo accessible content on Neverwinter, because that is also something they make. You can pretend like it doesn't exist, and then someone could accuse me like, well, you never knew what an MMORPG was like before. It's like, listen, my friend, or not my friends, I guess I'm not like a spring chicken, and I stand by what I said. Like, the vast majority of the time, even during the golden age of MMOs, which is what people keep referring to when they're stuck in their past, the large majority of your time is still single player oriented. Like, I'm not one to I'm not going to go and try to gaslight someone, but for myself, so much of that is, yes, I do remember those clears, right? Those clears of the hardcore dungeons, the first hardcore dungeon introduced, getting to level 70, but there is no reality that I live in personally, respectfully disagree, that the vast majority of people's game time, even in an MMORPG, I'm being a little bit more specific, because MMOs now are a little bit different. Actually, not RPGs, you do spend the majority of time interacting with other people. In these games, you still spend the most amount of time, arguably alone, like doing solo things. Now, if that person truly stop referring, like, I don't know, where's this generalization coming from? Using the word like the abbreviation MMO to stand for MMORPGs like these, there are MMO games where you do in fact spend the vast majority of your time interacting with other people. And they're not referred to as MMOs most of the time. They're referred to like as extraction shooters. Battle Royale games, right? Especially extraction shooters, now that PvE VP is like the hybrid that people have, right? Hats off to the Arc Raiders developers. And more. There's so many more that are coming where, yeah, those ones are in fact building around an environment where you are spending most of your time in group content or interacting with other people. And even in those situations, they are individual based a lot of times and interacting with other group members because they want to be in that space. Like Arc Raiders wasn't designed in a sense that, oh yeah, everyone has to start as a group. It's more like the individual loves playing the game, and they built an environment in which it kept the player in the game, which led to interactions with other group members. This one is more like, oh yeah, let's force ourselves together and hope that our common interest is the reason why we would stick together. Historically, and also maybe a little bit human conditionally, that's usually not good enough. Acquiring common interests is like two bounty hunters having a common interest. Once that bounty is up and there's nothing for either of them, the alliance often dissolves, right? It's a bunch of solo players who keep thinking that it's about group play, and they only enter group play when there's something in it for them. Like, I'm not speaking for everyone. Obviously, there are benevolent people out there that like to stay in a game and help people because there's nothing in it for them. That's perfectly fine. Like, those exist. So, like, I want to avoid cherry picking bad actors and good actors. I think the reality is that a common interest based on performance and objectives is tenuous. Like, for example, getting into an Overwatch game and the common interest is you want to win the round. The moment when the round is unwinnable, the group splinters. Even in those moments, and they spend 90% of their time interacting in group play. So if you're gonna make a humanistic reality check on me when it comes to understanding how people's mentalities are, well, the person who's keyboard warrioring and speaking as though they represent a group, that is exactly the attitude that involves people who only are interested in their common interest, not in a community that's built on emergent encounters. Like, the very nature of trying to talk down to another person is the very nature that reveals that you exhibit a behavior that isn't great for group play. It is for business transaction. You play because there's a business transaction waiting to happen. You play because there are rings, there are shirts, there are rewards for that. And when someone tells me that's what made World of Warcraft, if you think that's what made World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, like RuneScape, interesting, lively, and communal, I think, to me, I would strongly and respectfully disagree with you. I think you belong to a different subset, because what made those moments beautiful is because they came together largely due to the nature, in my opinion, that people wanted to be in the game. They wanted to play the game. And the rest came about because of the game. Not because you have to, or to get to the reward, you need to have to work with someone else, right? to get the reward, you need to learn team play, or you need to deal with or tolerate team play. In both cases, the one that's saying, oh, it's about group play, and they talk and attack other people for saying it's not group play. That's legitimately like not being a group oriented person when discussing topics. Like, I can only imagine what it's like when someone like that enters a group. It's like, oh, hey, this is how we do the run. If you disagree with me, get out of the group. Like, at least in my opinion, that type of behavior, it translates to the group. So if I'm going on the forum and this person's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm really happy about the dungeon having a lot of grinding. I help organize groups, and but all these people who are whining about not being able to find groups, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just like really lazy and behaviorally. My first thought is, I don't want to be in that guy's group. Like, if it's like an oxymoron, it's a hypocrite, in my opinion, that's happening. You decided that you're good, you're a good person, you like organizing groups, you like help supporting the thing. Meanwhile, you're on the forum attacking anyone who's not part of your group, or your agreements, or your point of view and whatnot. That is like saying, oh hey, I really care about people, but I don't care about you. It's like, oh hey, I do care and try my best to be compassionate about people, but I really hate you. Just specifically you're not important. And that's kind of how I feel when you're constantly reading these. Not that so this doesn't make me upset. I feel like understanding this, it makes one not upset. Like, I have an appreciation for understanding, at least through the Discord that I'm commenting about when I'm reading these messages, that I kind of get an idea. I don't want to step on people's toes. So if I get into a group, I'll follow whoever the leader is, or whoever has the loudest voice. That's kind of the Neverwinter 101. If you want to get into a guild or an alliance or a channel, you gotta be ready to follow whoever's the experienced person and then talk complacently. You get your job done, you check your boxes, and then you get your loot. And then if so you happen to be lucky, people will help you out and you get what you put in. Like, that's great. For myself, I'm big pass on most of that. I like passion. I like passion and compassion. So what I loved, if someone said like, oh, don't you pine for the old World of Warcraft days? Yeah. And then at the same time, this would be the same person like, well, Neverwinter is never going to be that. Those golden age of old will never happen again. It's like, yeah, I agree too. So what's your point? And they would say like, well, you sound like you're complaining about trying to capture the old spirits. Like, no, I'm actually trying to highlight that it's time for those old things to fade and look for even more better things, or things that are built with the people that exist now. That's kind of my counter, like overall my counter argument for like 4 weeks ago when someone wrote an essay on how they know exactly why I'm recording these things. Like, oh, I pine for nostalgia. It's like, boy howdy, I don't pine to go back to things that I have already done. In fact, I think life is far more dynamic and interesting to continuously promote that people stop shutting things down and trying to preserve the way it was, because those people don't exist now. Like, what I mean by that is when someone says, oh yeah, like, don't treat this like it used to be, or this is like what it used to be, is like, well, you're not working with the people that exist. You're pretending, or at least in my opinion, you're trying to see only the people you care about and not the people who are in the game. So my first thought is, well, it would be nice if you work with all the existing things that are here and not just the things you want to work with. That's nostalgia. So right now, It will be very curious next time. I'm genuinely seeing how they're going to straddle this. Are they because the dungeon is coming up, right? And the next time is dungeon time, and well, outside the half module. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Reading the feedback next week, and maybe the week after next. I'll probably peruse through the tank feedback Discord, because what's kind of getting me a little excited is what are they going to change to tanks, and then once they do that, it's probably going to be my last thing. Tanks are what I play. This module is like grinding aspect of the thing. It's a skip. Actually, it's a big skip for myself. So I didn't even do my 3 characters. Usually I keep 3 characters up to date. My barbarian and my fighter is no longer up to date. We're gonna move forward with a paladin, barring mod 32.5 maybe be where the tank rebalancing happens, or like all the tank stuff. I think the people who are doing that, the tank players, like when they're looking, actually it's not as volatile and condescending and like back talking and stuff than the mod 32 red harvest 2 general feedback one. Largely because the feedback seems to be more like an op-ed and attacking people about whataboutisms. Like, oh, well, you don't like grinding? What about Black Desert Online? It's like, oh, you don't like grinding? Then what about other games that have it? Like, this is an MMO. What about you go play a single player game? That's kind of what's happening. But in the tank forum situation, they're all talking about their personal experiences, and then they're like collaborating and corroborating certain things. That's pretty neat. So we'll probably talk about that next week. I'll give it a good old look. I don't min-max too much tank things. My excitement is the opportunity that something is going to change about tanks, and like the play style or something is going to change, and that is fantastic, right? At least, again, I've made it clear that my personal biases is I'm a person who's pro change. Video games is to exercise the good old noggin and fingers and whatnot and thought process, not to maintain the same things and habit formations, although live service games do have that incentive. Until next time, right, we'll be back with the last 2 weeks. It's a great way to brainstorm, and I will try to come up with a more developed topic for the last 2 weeks. Until next time, if you're gonna watch this later, thank you as always. You're more than welcome to follow along whatever it is that you find attractive about Neverwinter Online. I only capture the single player experience, so the minimum or maybe maximum amount of time someone is willing to do the campaigning process, which is very accessible. It's like less than 30 minutes for a week, and that might be a reflection of its lack of content, or might also be a reflection of its disproportionate catering to specific farming and grinding, which I do not do. I am completing the solo content, looking around what the solo content is, and I'm rarely bootstrapping through those things. It is to me, it is unnecessary for me to do those things in order to find that 30 minutes of satisfaction once a week and then waiting for the next module. So for me, I'm perfectly content with putting in the amount of time that I find valuable. That is the ultimate answer, despite all the disagreements about what should be longer, what should be shorter, what should be more rewarding. For myself, I navigate adaptively to as much time or value that I see fit, not catering to the strong gaslighting and gatekeeping that happens when someone tells someone else how to play games, how to do things, and what to do, because they aren't doing it right. They aren't doing it correctly. And that's kind of where my commentary today really address. If you're unhappy, I really do hope that you find time to choose things that make you happy, or you want to record or make commentary about. This is what I do when I'm playing a live service game, even when I'm not streaming it. If I'm doing a Neverwinter, if I'm grinding something, if I truly am grinding something, I would be thinking about other things. Right, what to do next? What are we gonna do? Can we watch a movie? That type of thing, because it's kind of like drinking coffee at this point. And me talking about these things and welcoming other people, right? Like, so feel free to follow along or give Neverwinter Online a try, right? Let me stop on by. We can yap about it, talk about the pros and cons that you see. We can discuss about things. That's actually where my time is, where I invest in commentary and discussion with communities or people who are people, not someone who is on a forum necessarily who could care less what you have written. That's a little bit different. So you're more than welcome to come on by, yap your grievances, gain affirmation, or engage in some very nitty-gritty discussions. Most of the time, actually, I do play single player games outside of like P5X, which is still a single player game, but have a communal component to it, right? And then I keep up with PSO2 and GS, which will have an April story update. That might be my last for that one as well. And then I play Hearthstone. So outside of that, spend the majority of my time skill development, right? We talk about communication here, executive function, and habit formation. Many of those things that come with how people, when you think about what does this have to do, the vast majority of my skills, what does this have to do with playing an MMORPG? Gaming is a lifestyle choice a lot of times now for a large majority of people. Maybe not so much Neverwinter Online since it's like an older population, but younger population, it's a lifestyle choice. So it does involve communication skills, problem solving skills, and decision making, because time management, it factors into how they negotiate these things. If you're upset about things, being able to discuss and interpret those things and making decisions that voluntarily allow you to be content with your executive functions, it's a great way. And that's why I still play live service games. And I am presently looking forward to new live service related developments that I will effectively phase out Neverwinter Online and probably PSO2 NGS for now, right? And it's not really that much time in the long scheme of things, because it's like 30 minutes to an hour over 10 days, and then it's going to be like 3 months of downtime. P5X is a little different. It's less than 2 weeks of downtime, but I really enjoy P5X, so yeah, more than welcome. So until next time, I'll see everyone next week. We might be talking about tank stuff, like tank consideration stuff. Make it the last 2 weeks of things. Maybe I can add a little bit about whatever people are talking about DPS. So we'll do tank and DPS discussions before the end, and then it's off to module 32.5. There's a chance I might not cover module 32.5. So we'll see. Until then, see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Good luck, good luck. Game responsibly, and hopefully you're choosing to do things with your time, your spare time, that brings you joy and happiness, right? That's the original vision of gaming, and not being stuck, being harassed, trivialized by bigger personalities. Until then, stay safe, happy gaming. Bye bye.